Hi, I'm Bridget Berger. I gave this presentation called Filling the Gap in Cold Stun Turtle Response at the Texas Master Naturalist State Meeting in October of 2022. I'm with the Midcoast chapter. It all began with Winter Storm Uri. In February of 2021, there was a winter storm that hit the country and particularly the state of Texas. There was freezing rain and snow and freezing temperatures for days in places that had never had that type of weather before. In the left-hand photo, you see, this is Galveston, you see this snow skier going down the road next to the lifeguard's truck with the surfboard on top. And in the background, you see steam rising over the warm waters of the Gulf. Nearly every county in Texas was affected. Sadly, there were over 200 deaths. 3/4 of the population lost power. There was water interruptions, and it cost Texans a lot of money. I live here in Calhoun County. It's halfway between Galveston and Corpus Christi. Calhoun County is surrounded by 3 bays: Matagorda Bay, Espiritu Santo Bay, and San Antonio Bay. It's in these bay systems that we frequently see the green sea turtles who feed on the seagrasses in these bays. We're protected by a barrier island called Matagorda Island. This is part of the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge. When the winter storm hit Port O'Connor, we hunkered down, we covered our plants, and we burned every piece of firewood that we owned because we were out of electricity for 3 days. Another impact of Winter Storm Uri was the delay of the start of Texas Parks and Wildlife's annual abandoned crab trap removal program. My husband is the chairman of San Antonio Bay Partnership, and he coordinates the volunteer effort for picking up abandoned crab traps in our local bays. Unfortunately, because of the storm, the crabbers were not able to get out to remove their traps because of the storm and because they could not get gas afterward. So this program was delayed by a few days. We finally did get out on the water to pick up traps, and here you see a couple of my chapter members who come and help us. We picked up a lot of traps. But what we also saw while we were out there, what we also found when we were out on the water, was the impact that the Winter Storm Uri had on the wildlife. We saw many, many fish killed. Lots of redfish, sheep's head, flounder, cow-nose ray, fine-tooth shark. Now, a lot of these species I didn't know what they were, so I use an app called Naturalist. It's a free app, and you just take a picture, and the app identifies what species it is. It doesn't matter if it's a plant or an insect or a mammal or a fish. It's a great tool to learn. It's also verified by people. They actually look at your photographs, and people say yes, that the app was right in the identification, or maybe they make a correction. But it's a great tool to learn with, and it also contributes to citizen science. Here's a few more of the species that we saw. Bonnet-head shark, this eel called a shrimp eel, this great big eel called a stipple-nosed eel. This thing is almost 4 feet long. There was a lot of striped burrfish killed as well. This is also known as pufferfish. But the saddest of all were the turtles. As we walked shorelines, we found a lot of dead turtles. Large and small turtles. Some were grouped together like they were trying to stay warm, even though I know they really don't do that. But it was heart-wrenching. During this time, we received an email that was forwarded by our Texas Master Naturalist State Coordinator. It was an email from Texas Parks and Wildlife saying that they had created a project in iNaturalist called Winter Storm Uri Wildlife Deaths. And they were asking us to document any wildlife kills that we had seen all across the state. They started this project so that they could track what the impact of the storm was on wildlife. So I tagged all my photographs to that project so that they can have that information. But what I also began to think about was these turtles, and there were so many of them that I thought, well, some organization needs to know. But there's so many conservation organizations along the coast, I didn't know who to turn to. So I just started making phone calls, and I eventually got to our local Texas Parks and Wildlife Fisheries Department, and the ecosystem leader there, her name is Kelly Kowal. She is the one who sent me the appropriate form where I could document the turtles that I found. When I told her how many I had seen, she sent me this form that's a batch form. It can contain up to 20 turtles at a time. So I took this form. I went out to an area called Vanderveer Island and walked that beach to document turtles. And I found plenty of dead sea turtles to document. I walked that 2-mile shoreline and I documented 140 dead sea turtles. I measured and took a photograph of each turtle. I took a photograph of the counter I was using and the measurement, and then I documented it on the batch form. I ended up completing 7 of the batch forms. They contain 20 turtles each, and I also documented the GPS coordinates where I started those 20 turtles and where I ended at those 20 turtles, just to get some accurate data. At the same time, Kelly Kowal and her staff were out documenting fish kill and turtle kills. So we combined our data and we plotted it on this Google Earth image to show where the concentration of dead turtles were found. Finding all these dead sea turtles revealed that there was a gap in the rescue system along the Texas Gulf Coast. As you can see here, there's various organizations that go and search and rescue the sea turtles when they become cold stunned. But from San Antonio Bay to Matagorda Bay, there was no rescue system, and those turtles died. So I came to find out that there's a overarching organization across the United States for sea turtles, and that's called the Sea Turtle Stranding and Salvage Network. NOAA Fisheries established this network in response to the Endangered Species Act back in the 1980s. Each coastal state has a state coordinator. Here in Texas, our state coordinator is Dr. Donna Shaver, and her assistant is Martha Villalba. They're at Padre Island National Seashore, and no matter what organization is searching and rescuing turtles, all of their data goes into Dr. Shaver, and she monitors and analyzes the data about stranded sea turtles. So Kelly Kowal and I got together and decided to start a sea turtle rescue in our area called the Mid-Coast Cold Stunned Sea Turtle Rescue to fill in this gap of rescue across the coast of Texas. We sat down and we defined what our scope would be. We brainstormed on the logistics. We wanted originally to actually house and warm and care for those turtles and release them. And we found out that we needed to have a veterinarian on board to do that, to oversee the care of the turtles. So we sought out not only recruitment of volunteers, but also a veterinarian that could oversee our program. We would have to house the turtles, find places to house them, gather supplies, and also then have our volunteers trained. We put out a call for volunteers through our local paper, the Dolphin Talk, and on several Facebook groups for our area. The outpouring of support was amazing. We got over 50 people volunteering. Everybody from winter Texans to residents to people that just come here on the weekends fishing all the time from various areas of the state. People were just great wanting to help these turtles. So when I talked with them, I had to gather, okay, what role do you want to play? Do you have a boat? Do you want to go out and search and rescue? Are you on the boat support? Do you want to be a runner or take the turtles in your car and transport the turtles? Do you want to care for the turtles? So I started gathering all this information on our 50 volunteers. So Kelly and I wrote out a program guide, defined what our program was about, where our focus was going to be, what the roles and responsibilities of our volunteers would be, the communication process, our search and rescue procedures, what to do with the turtles once they're found, etc. We put this into a flow process so people could all be on the same page as far as who does what and what happens when and why it's important to keep in communication with the dispatcher. When we looked at how we would search and rescue for these cold stunned turtles, we decided to develop a strategy that San Antonio Bay Partnership uses for the abandoned crab trap removal. What they do is they break up the bay systems into smaller areas and they make assignments of the boat captains to go out and look for those crab traps. So we decided to use the same format. By looking at where we found the dead turtles in Winter Storm Uri, we saw that these areas are probably a high priority for us because as the turtles become cold, they cannot swim any longer, and so they're at the mercy of that north wind, and they end up on those north-facing shorelines. So we developed a system where we had priorities to what areas should be searched, and our minimum goal was to get those high priority areas covered in a cold stunning event. And you can see the high priority areas here outlined in red, and then the lower priorities in the blue and the white. Another step that we had to take was to find housing for our turtles. As we thought about having another massive cold stunning event of over 500 turtles, we knew we couldn't house them all at the Parks and Wildlife office. So we reached out to Calhoun County commissioners and got permission to use our community center if there was an event of a cold stunning. We also reached out to Calhoun County ISD to ask them to use the elementary school gym, and both of these groups agreed to help us house the turtles if there was a cold stunning event. So our process includes the boat captains taking the turtles to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Coastal Fisheries Office at the end of 16th Street in Port O'Connor and handing them off to the staff there to process, meaning they would do a full assessment and measure the turtles, and then our volunteers, their runners, our ground runners, would take the turtles and transport them to the warming areas. Unfortunately, during this time, we could not find a veterinarian that would participate in our program. So we had to sort of give up on that idea because it's a requirement to have the veterinarian overseeing the care of turtles. So we decided that we would be transporting all of our turtles to the nearest rehab facility. That facility is the Amos Rehabilitation Keep, which is in Port Aransas. Kelly and I went down there and we met with Alicia Walker, the program coordinator. We worked out the logistics of transporting the turtles, where our volunteers would bring them, and Alicia was very, very helpful in helping us to iron out what we needed to do to transport these turtles to her. Dr. Shaver and Martha provided sea turtle rescue training that it would be required for all of our volunteers or anyone wanting to handle turtles. As you know, sea turtles are an endangered species, and anyone handling them should be on a federal permit. And in order to have your name included on that, they needed to go through this required training. So Martha and Dr. Shaver provided webinar training on 2 different occasions. So we seem to have our program all in place by mid-January, and we invited all of our members to come and meet with us so that we could go over our logistics and to provide them with the supplies that they would need, which included the forms on a clipboard and pens and markers and flagging tape and gloves. And also some of our members didn't have a chance to go through the webinar training, so we're going to offer showing a recording of that training one more time for anyone who did not have that training yet. But the week before the meeting, we got an email from Dr. Philip Tussaud. He's an associate professor at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. He does modeling for the water temperatures in predicting when there are cold stunning events. And in this graph, you see the red dotted line is the threshold for sea turtles. It's 46.4 degrees Fahrenheit, and if that water temperature goes down and stays there for 24 hours or more, that constitutes a cold stunning event. And you can see in this graph on February 4th, 5th, and 6th, that water temperature was going to be well below that threshold. So we executed our plan and called our boat captains, asking them which areas they could cover. We wanted to make sure that our highest priority areas for search and rescue were covered by our boat captains, and they did a fabulous job in signing up for areas to search. Some of our boat captains had not had a chance to do the webinar training, and so I was able to deputize them by having them come to my house, and we sat down and went over the form and how to complete it, how to flag the turtle with the STSSN number, and how to handle the turtle. We had one boat go out on Friday afternoon, and that was Zachary and Scott with the Lavaca Navidad River Authority. They didn't find a turtle on Friday, but they went back out on Saturday, and they did find a small green sea turtle stranded and were able to rescue it. In total, we had 10 boats go out, and we found a total of 16 turtles. On the right-hand side, you see here, this is the Texas Parks and Wildlife Coastal Fisheries staff that are measuring and completing the full documentation for each stranded turtle. Both Parks and Wildlife staff and our volunteers participated in transporting the turtles to the Ark. Some of our volunteers took the turtles all the way down to Port Aransas, and some of them were able to pass off turtles to other volunteers coming up from Rockport or Port Aransas and handing them off to them. So on the day following that cold stunning, we did finally have our Sea Turtle Rescue Program meeting at the library, and we were all very happy that we had executed our plans and we had rescued the turtles. So within just a few days, the turtles warmed up and there was a release. 2 of our Mid-Coast volunteers, Bill and Gloria Carlsberg, went down to Port Aransas and helped with that release. According to Dr. Shaver, most of the turtles that were rescued required no other medical treatment other than just warming. And so they were released off of North Padre Island and South Padre Island Gulf beaches. And here is a video that Gloria shot. There's Bill taking a turtle to the water. and you can see how the turtles are transported to the beach on trucks, and volunteers help to take the turtles back down to the beach and release them. I took the GPS coordinates from each turtle that we rescued and plotted it on a Google Earth image. As you can see here, we did find most of the turtles in the high priority areas of those north-facing shorelines. One exception was a fisherman was coming in later that day and found 2 stranded turtles closer to the intercoastal canal. So I deputized him over the phone, taught him how to handle the turtle, and he brought those into Parks and Wildlife, and they were included in the 16 turtles that we rescued on February 5th. So within the span of a year, we put together a very effective rescue system. But what we didn't realize was that our help would be needed year-round. Throughout the spring, summer, and fall, there was an unprecedented number of loggerhead sea turtles that were stranding on the Gulf beaches. So at the end of April, early May, we were getting reports of stranded turtles being seen by some fishermen down at Cedar Bayou on Matagorda Island. And we really had no way to get there, get up the beach to rescue those turtles. But in May, Parks and Wildlife keeps vehicles on the north end of the island, and so I was allowed to go out with them, and we drove 10 miles down the beach, and we found basically the remains of 8 turtles in those 10 miles. So we documented those, and then throughout the summer and fall, we got calls about live turtles on Matagorda Peninsula near Pascavallo, and also helped to deliver some live turtles that were on Matagorda Peninsula further north by the town of Matagorda. So our rescue system was not just a cold stunning rescue, it's turned out to be a year-round endeavor. So that's where we are now. We're in the fall of 2022. We have had the webinar training provided by Dr. Shaver and Martha. We had our Mid-Coast meeting on November 11th, and we are still looking for folks to help us out. We could always use the help. So if you know anyone who is a boat captain around the Port O'Connor, Seadrift, Matagorda Bay, San Antonio Bay area, please let me know. My contact information is going to be on the last slide. What you can do to help is if you're on a Texas beach and you see a stranded turtle, call 866-TURTLE-5. That number will give you options according to where you're located on the Texas coast, and will put you in touch with the organization responsible for that area. Our selection is number 3, the Mid-Coast Sea Turtle Rescue. What everyone can do to help is to reduce their use of single-use plastics. A plastic bag in the water looks just like a jellyfish to a turtle, and these bottles look like food as well. You see the triangular shape of the turtle bite on each of these. In the lower image, this was a video taken by a researcher at Texas Sea Grant, and they found a 4-inch plastic straw in the nostril of this turtle. These turtles cannot digest this plastic, they can't throw it up, and they can't pass it through. So if the turtle's stomach fills with plastic, then they die of malnutrition. I urge you to bring your own reusable bags to the grocery stores, refuse plastic, single-use plastic bottles, buy your beverages in larger containers, fill your own metal bottle with water and take it with you. Just reduce your use of these single-use plastics. And of course, wherever you go, pick it up. No matter where you are, that bottle, that cup is going to end up in our waters, so please pick it up. There's this great video by Jace Tunnel's son Jack, and he does this video showing the output of a storm drain at Corpus Christi, and you can see all of these drink cups from their local convenience store called Stripes just rushing out of the storm drain into the waterways. This is literally what our beaches look like here. So please pick it up and skip the plastics. If you have any questions or you want to volunteer, please contact me. And if you're not in my area, I'll get you in touch with the area where you live. Thank you very much, and I hope you help us help the turtles.